UST Cares. And I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Sister Sharon Howell, Assistant Dean of Students. I also function as a parent liaison here at the University of St. Thomas. And I want to introduce to you our panelists. We have Dr. Karen Lang, who is our Vice President for Student Affairs, Father Eric Rutten, whom you also met earlier. Madonna Mcdermott is our Director for Health Services. Jim Sachs is Assistant Dean of Students, is focused on discipline, and Dan Mavison is the Director for Campus Security and Transportation. And so, Karen?
Thank you, Sister Sharon. How's everybody doing? Lots of information right away in the morning, isn't it? Well, this session, as Sister Sharon said, I'm Karen Lang. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs, and I'm actually new in this role. I've been at the university for 29 years and functioned as a Dean of Students for the last 14. So this session that we're going to share with you, the students are going to have a similar session. And it's some pretty heavy topics here. So we're going to show you a video, and I'll give you a little heads up about that video before we start. But all day today, you have started to hear the messages, and you're going to hear the messages about FERPA and HIPAA, and it's time to step back, and that can be difficult. You may have been your child's advocate for K through 12, and all of a sudden you hear everyone here at the university saying, okay, it's time for them to advocate for themselves. And sometimes if a parent calls us and says, oh, my child's having a roommate problem, we'll walk you through it and say, what has your child done? What has your student done? And so that's the message we want you to get. However, when it comes to health and safety, we want to partner with you. And if you are worried about your student, if you're worried about their health, you're worried about their safety, we want you to call us. If we are worried about your child's health or safety, if they have come forward, there's been an incident on campus that we're very concerned about their health or safety, we will call you. We want to be partners with you. We're so glad you're here today. You're hearing about all the resources that we have. Your students are hearing it too, but we do our follow-up surveys and we ask them what they remember. They remember somebody they met, they remember their orientation leader. That's great, we want them to. We want them to get here and get connected. But we rely on you as our partners to remember some of the resources that you hear about. So when your student calls home and they're maybe frustrated or have some issues that they're working through, that you say, I remember at orientation I met one of the psychologists, and that might be a good place to go. So we really appreciate the fact that you're here today and know that you will support your student for the next 4 years. So you're going to hear Jim and Dan are going to talk a little bit more about safety on campus, and they're going to talk about alcohol on campus. And I like to set that up a little bit because sometimes, and Jim and Dan deal with alcohol-related issues. As every other campus across the United States, we have concerns about high-risk alcohol use. But I also wanted to mention we have lots of students that come here and do not drink at all or choose to drink very responsibly. So I want to make sure you have that message too. So we're going to watch a video, and one of the students on the video, the students are orientation leaders. They're telling you real stories, and one of them talks about a sexual assault that happened. And although that sexual assault did not happen on this campus, it could happen on this campus, and it has happened on this campus. So we're going to spend some time telling you a little bit about what we're doing proactively. I can't imagine that anyone hasn't seen in the news and the media of the last few years all the information around sexual assaults on college campuses across the United States. So we want to make sure that you have the resources and your students have the resources. And we want to tell you what we're doing both today and in the fall proactively and preventatively to prevent those kinds of issues on our campus. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start with the video, and then we'll talk a little bit about it once it's done.
I have a story, not a made-up story, but something that actually happened to me.
We could make up stories about people that don't exist, or we could tell you about our first years here, what we experienced.
About the moments in my life that have taught me things. Important lessons that I keep with me today. Lessons that have made me a stronger individual.
I'm sure it's not all that interesting,
but I have a story.
I didn't struggle very much with the workload in high school, and I thought that college was going to be the same way. I was wrong. College is serious. One semester in, and reality hit me. The grades I received for my classes were not what I expected, and it was my fault. I was consistently procrastinating on my assignments, and I barely attended classes. I knew I could have done better.
Coming into St. Thomas as a commuter was difficult. I I didn't have a core group of friends, so getting involved was a constant struggle. I had trouble making friends in classes, I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt dejected that I wasn't living the picturesque university experience. I wanted a place to belong.
It was going to be a really great night. I was excited to see my friends. We were talking and dancing, and we started to drink. One of the girls that we were with was starting to not feel well. Other friends left for the party, but I stayed back with her. After she felt up to it, I walked her back to her room. I set her up on the couch and left around midnight. The next morning, I got a call from my friend. She said that our friend I had brought back to her room had been raped and then taken to the hospital that same night.
My first year, I struggled a lot with managing my time in order to get both my schoolwork done and having a social life. First semester, I did okay, but my second semester was much harder. I started going out on the weekends and watching a lot of Netflix during the week. I was often too tired to do my schoolwork, and my grades dropped. I also started having trouble with my depression and anxiety. With all of this going on, my grades really slipped, and by finals, I was in a full-blown panic attack. I knew my GPA was going to drop significantly, and I was scared for what that would mean with my scholarships and my future.
It can be difficult to fit in when everyone else seems so different from you. I was fortunate enough to have a group of upperclassmen take me under their wing. I was introduced to Tabletop Gaming Club, one of the many student organizations, and I started spending more time in off-campus student services, a place that gave me the resources I needed to get on my feet.
I realized I needed help, so I went to academic counseling. We sat down and made a 4-year plan that would put less stress on me each semester. They also coached me on how to better manage my time in order to bring my grades back up. I visited counseling and psychological services in order to actively deal with my depression and anxiety. They provided me with a counselor for free. Without them, I would have let my depression take complete control of my life, and it may have resulted in me dropping out or something worse.
My friend was raped. I never thought I'd be saying that. She got treated at the hospital and told her parents what had happened. They encouraged her to visit counseling, which she said helped a little. She even did some group counseling with other survivors. She also reported the guy to the university and had a formal investigation. Through all of this, I tried to support her. I listened when she needed someone. I helped her where I could. She relied on me a lot during this time.
I knew I needed help, so I went to my academic advisor. When I met with him, he told me about multiple places that I can go for help. He suggested that I go to the Writing Center. I went to them, and they helped me edit my papers, and I learned a lot of tips from them that I still use on my papers today. He also suggested the Math Resource Center and department tutoring as options to help me throughout my studies.
Eventually, I started to feel drained and depressed myself because of all of this. I knew it was nothing compared to what she was going through, but I was starting to struggle too. I was depressed and I knew it. I ended up going to counseling services too, and then continued to see someone until my depression was less serious. I knew that I couldn't continue caring for my friend if I wasn't also taking care of myself.
Using these resources and working hard, my grades have improved. I still go to the Writing Center when I need help with my papers, and now I have a better sense of the time and effort I need to put in to earn the grades I want. It hasn't been easy, but the support I received has helped equip me to better manage my time and focus on my success.
As I look back over the time I've spent here, I realize that I was right. Everyone else was so different from myself, but now I see what a good thing that was. The great variety of people here at UST is the one thing that helps make sure that each and every student on our campus is included in one way or another.
All of these problems weren't magically solved my freshman year, and even now, as a junior, I still find myself at academic counseling and the counseling services a few times a semester to keep myself on track. I honestly love going to both of these places because my grades and depression were things I wasn't ready to talk about with my friends and family, but they provided me with a safe space where they helped me to see that I had a lot of hope and things would get better for me.
It is important to know these specific events that happen to us may never happen to you.
We all have a different path in college, and everyone will transition and learn in different ways.
You must understand, though, that others will be dealing with this.
Your friend, classmate, roommate, teammate,
Or even you may find yourself dealing with something unexpected or difficult in this new environment.
We wanted to show you that it is normal to have difficulties, that they just come along with college sometimes.
We also wanted to show you that with a little help and support, you can make your way through it and truly be successful here.
you are now part of a large, caring community where many people are invested in your safety, well-being, and success.
So whatever you might be dealing with now, or anything that comes up,
If a friend has past difficulties, or if she or he comes to you with new troubles,
Finding the support you need is not difficult.
Know that we are all here to help, and with the support of St. Thomas, you can make it.
Whatever your story is,
you don't have to feel alone.
You are worth taking care of.
There are places on this campus you can go.
There are people on this campus who care.
As I mentioned, we wanted to make sure that you did see all the resources that we have on this campus. We used this video in our earlier session this week, and we looked at the feedback after our first session. And for many of our students, they said that this session, where they're hearing this similar material to you, was one of the most important ones to them, because those were the things they were most nervous about. So they spent an hour talking about the same topics that we're talking about today, and their orientation leaders, who are a lot younger and cooler than any of us, address the issues with them and talk with them about how to manage some of these issues on our campus. So one of the things that, as I mentioned earlier, I've been at the university for 29 years here, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is really working with the staff and faculty that we work with, because it is a faculty and staff and coaches and everyone who really do care deeply about our students. And many of us on the panel here that will be talking today have college-age children, either have gone through college, or some of us have students that are going through college right now, either here or at other places. And so we know what it's like from that perspective also. So I'm going to just review a couple of the policies today, and as I mentioned, your students will hear this much more in depth than you will. But the first one is a Good Samaritan statement, and probably about 5 or 6 years ago, some students came to us and they said, you know, every once in a while, if we're out with our friends and we're worried, maybe our friend drank too much, and I drank too much too, but I'm really worried about my friend, but I'm afraid to tell anyone because I don't want to get in trouble for drinking. I don't want to tell public safety. I don't want to tell my RA. So we worked with the students, Jim actually did, in developing a Good Samaritan statement saying, if you come forward and let us know you're worried about your friend, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble yourself, because we want to hear from you when you're worried about your friends. Their safety is the most important thing, and so we know that has helped with our students coming forward, and they do let us know when they're worried about their friends. Hate crimes and bias-motivated incidents. We are a microcosm of society. There are times where we have incidents on campus that relate to hate crime. It's unacceptable, and we certainly will address any issues that we hear about immediately. And if you are aware of anything, we we appreciate you contacting us about that too. Bystander training. Last year, if you followed any of the information that came out of the Office of Civil Rights around what is an effective way to address sexual misconduct on campuses, bystander training was one of the things that came out, and we were so fortunate that we've been doing this for several years. We work with our students about how do you intervene if you're at a party, for example, and you think you're worried about your friend, and how do you intervene? How do you become a bystander and care about that person? So we spend a lot of time talking with the students about intervening. So they're going to hear about that today. And then in the fall, we have lots of programming. Some of it's called Green Dot. And so the students will hear more about the Green Dot bystander training information that we have on campus. We have a full-time educator who educates our campus on sexual misconduct, and that's a fairly new position, and she's just dynamite, and she does lots of programming and work with our students. We're happy to say that we are a leader in this area around sexual misconduct and the work we're doing on campus, the preventative work. So all of our staff, faculty, and new students have gone through training. Your students are going through this training today, and for the first time, your students will be doing online training between now and the end of September, where they will be going through, it's about a 45-minute online training around sexual misconduct. It is going to be required by the law in the state of Minnesota, and we wanted to get ahead of that, so we're starting this year. It's a program called Not Anymore, and we'll be anxious to hear from our students of how they appreciate that program. So they will receive an email from the Dean of Students Office. You might hear them talking about that, with the expectation that they would need to watch this program and then complete both a pre and a post exam. It's about a 45 to 60-minute program. So the other message that I just want to leave with you, and as I said, I have had my own 2 children that have gone through college, and I think the most important message you can give your children is that you love them, that you're proud of them, and that you leave that door open for communication. It really is an exciting time to have that adult-adult relationship, and you really are their partner too as they go through the next 4 years. And just sending them that message that you'll be there to listen to them and to be there for them during the next 4 years, I think is really important. So again, thank you for being here today. And now I'm going to introduce Father Eric Rutten, our Director of Campus Ministry.
Good morning again. It is good to see you, and I'm glad you clapped, if nothing else, just to kind of present ourselves. And you're getting talked at a lot, so thank you for your attention. As Dr. Lang said, I am Father Eric Rutten, the chaplain and director of campus ministry. Campus ministry is one of the many places on campus that your son or daughter can go for help and support as we're learning here today. And as we've been talking about, and as you saw in the video, college is a time of great challenges, but also a time of tremendous growth and development. Students ask the big questions of life during this time, during their college years. Who am I? What do I want to study? What do I want to do with my life? What kinds of friends do I want to hang out with? How do I handle romance and sexuality? What kind of person do I want to be? How do I make sense of betrayal or even tragedy in my life? These are major issues that happen. And campus ministry is a place where they can go to grapple with these questions. These questions, notice, they're not just religious questions or specifically Catholic questions. They're universal human spiritual questions. And we in campus ministry strive to engage all of our students precisely in this process of engaging with these big questions of life. We are a Catholic university. We have a Catholic identity, and it makes us unique, makes us holistic in our approach. We believe that each human person is mind, body, and spirit. So while they're learning intellectually and engaged in athletics and everything else, they're also hopefully engaging in their spiritual life. Our Catholic identity helps us to see that each and every student, it truly is a beloved child of God with infinite dignity, infinitely precious. And you'll notice that and you'll see that in all of our efforts to provide support and care for them. And it is precisely because we're Catholic, not in spite of it, but precisely because we're Catholic, that we have this real desire to engage everyone in the spiritual life. Our offerings are supportive, but they're also challenging to faith development. We have, as you might imagine, as many colleges do, prayer opportunities, liturgy, sacraments. We have retreats. And I'd like to highlight for you specifically our first-year retreat, freshman retreat. It's a great opportunity. When students come to campus and they're meeting 100 people, it's good to have a chance to kind of step back and reassess who am I and who do I want to be in this new environment. And it's a great chance to meet other students with whom they can make deeper relationships. And many of our students that go on that freshman retreat make friends that will last throughout their 4 years here. We have peer ministry opportunities, student-to-student engagement. We have service and social justice opportunities, ecumenical and interreligious options. For an example, when we do our beginning of the school year celebrations, we include an interfaith blessing. Our main service outreach is when we do break trips in January and spring break. We do this in a particular way to engage students of all faiths. It's an interfaith service opportunity we call Vision. And we also have a program called Abrahamic Dinners. So students of the Christian background, Jewish and Muslim, we'll get them together as a kind of a cohort model, a smaller group of them, and we'll simply have a meal together a couple times a semester. No big agenda, no big religious debate, but a chance to get to know each other as humans, as human beings. Chance so that when we're walking throughout the quadrangle and we see somebody we know, we can greet them by name. That's our Abrahamic Dinners program. Our overall goal is to build a community, to build a sense of belonging, because it's in that safety that we can really engage those questions. So thank you. And now I'd like to invite Madonna Mcdermott to come forward. She's the Director of Health Services and our Wellness Center.
Good morning. I am Madonna Mcdermott. I am also a nurse practitioner. I direct the health and wellness here at St. Thomas, and as with the rest of my colleagues, we're very excited to get to know your students and welcome them to our campus. There's a few things that I wanted to talk about as it relates to health and wellness here at St. Thomas. All of you, when you go to your clinic appointments, you know that your information is protected there from anyone else knowing that. The same happens here. Your students are now 18 for the most part. And so if you call us to ask, have they been in, have they been seen, that's not something that we can share with you unless they write an authorization for disclosure of information. So just so that you're aware of that. The other, however, as with Vice President Lang mentioned, if there is an emergency, if we call for an ambulance or there's something significantly going wrong, we're going to call you. That's just part of what we agreed to do for our students. And even if they're just not critical ill, if they're significantly ill, we'll say, is it okay if we give your family member a call to give them an update? Would you like me to explain what's going on so that it's a little bit easier for them to give us permission that way? It is a full-service clinic that is operating here on St. Thomas campus. It's physicians, which are internists, nurse practitioners, physical therapy, psychiatrists, massage therapy. I'm sure I'm missing a few others. Yeah, I think those are the main providers that we have. We do use insurance, healthcare insurance, and that's how we support the operations that we have here. So make sure your student has their insurance card when they go off to school. You will be getting a letter, an email, or your son or daughter or family member will in the next few weeks about insurance. The Affordable Care Act requires that every student has insurance. If you do not, if your child does not have insurance, we will enroll them and bill them for the university-sponsored health insurance plan. It is a good plan, so it's one to look at, but as with all insurance plans, it's expensive. The nice part about it is that there's a zero deductible if they have their care at St. Thomas. So that means they can come in once a week for a strep test if they wanted to. However, we want you to take a critical look at your plan versus this plan, look at the deductibles and see what makes most sense for you and your family. We are located on the north end of campus, so in the lower level Brady Residence Hall. It's very convenient. Hours are 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday with extended hours till 6 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Your student can schedule an appointment even in the middle of the night because we do have online health portal that they can go in. We reserve about half of our appointments for same day. So we can usually get most students in that same day if they're ill, and we try to triage. We also are part of a larger system of education, so we're trying to teach students how to use healthcare resources wisely. If they've only been sick an hour or two, it's really too early to probably be seen unless it's something pretty severe. And so we do a lot of education around that. Also, unlike your primary care, probably, we continue to follow them. So we may say, you're pretty sick today, you have some wheezing going on, we want to see you back in 24 or 48 hours. That's not a charge, that we continue to see them until that episodic illness is completed and they're back to being healthy. Immunization requirements, that will be in the same email saying where you need to submit that to. We don't need a paper copy, it's just submitted online. And the state of Minnesota requires MMR 1 and 2 and tetanus within 10 years, or at least documentation of immunity for that. We do highly recommend meningitis vaccination. If they haven't had that, we do have that available here at St. Thomas. The clinic also has a travel clinic. You've heard a little bit, and you probably hear more later on about most of our students do travel by the time they finish their career here. And so we have a very active travel clinic, are certified for yellow fever vaccination as well as all the other vaccinations. Local pharmacy, if your student has a chronic illness and may need to have their prescriptions transferred, we have several that are nearby, a Target pharmacy that they can take the bus to. That's in Minneapolis, but many students go over there anyway to go to Target. The closest pharmacy is Pro Pharmacy, about 5 blocks away. They can easily transfer it there. There's Walgreens or CVS, so very easy to do that. If they have an ongoing prescription that needs to be renewed, any one of our providers can help do that as well. As with the rest of my colleagues, I'm available afterwards for questions. If there's specific illness-related questions you want to discuss with me, or contact any one of the providers in our clinic, and they'd be happy to help you around that. So next I'd like to introduce our discipline guy, Assistant Dean of Students, Jim Sachs.
Thank you, Madonna. Testing, testing. Yeah. Very good, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Sachs, Assistant Dean of Student Discipline guy. And one of the reasons I like orientation is this is a discipline guy. Nobody wants to see me. So it's a chance to come out and say hello to everybody. And then usually at the end of this, when I'm at the info fair, the parents bring their kids along and say, you never want to meet him, which, you know, can be, you know, if you didn't have a strong ego, it could get to you. But fortunately, I do have a strong ego. And what you're also going to need to be an assistant dean is perspective, patience, and a really, really good sense of humor, which I like to illustrate through my career path. I'm a Jewish lawyer who was trained by a Lutheran pastor to do discipline at a Catholic university. You cannot tell me God does not have a sense of humor. And sometimes Father Eric and I will come together and we'll go, well, you know, sometimes God sends them to the dean's office and sometimes God sends them to the ministry center. So we come out like two managers sometimes, you know, baseball managers. Well, which one, you know, should we do it the usual way? Yes. He's with you today. So what you're also going to need is a little bit of perspective of, you know, as Vice President Lang mentioned, our number one issue is alcohol. It is with every school in the United States except for BYU because Mormons don't drink. But otherwise, everybody has the same issue with alcohol. It is the number one thing that we deal with, and we try not to be judgmental about it. It is what it is. And I do have people who say, well, how long has this been going on? How can you say, well, about 900 years. If you want an illustration, I commend to you the biography of John Adams. You look on page 411. He is being written to by his wife, Abigail. They are very concerned about their second son, Charles, who got kicked out of Harvard. Apparently someone ran naked through Harvard Yard, and apparently alcohol was involved. That was 1792, okay? They've been doing it since long before I got here. They'll be doing it long after I leave. So the trick is to enforce, and I think that kind of catches them by surprise that we enforce, but to do it without being mean. I don't make judgments about these things. Like I said, you don't last if you don't have a sense of humor and a sense of perspective. And I'm kind of philosophical these days because I was doing what you guys were doing today. I was at the U yesterday with my son. I have two kids in college. Neither of them came here, and I would say to both of them, you know, is it me? It's like, yeah, duh, Dad. It's like, so I don't blame them. I wouldn't have wanted to go where my dad was a disciplined guy either. But, you know, you have to have a little faith, and it is an act of faith, and you have to have some faith that we're paying attention. And one of the things that I like about it is that we really do care about it. And I'm going to give you a quick thumbnail sketch about how it works both on campus and off campus, and they're getting the same message. We will tell it to them over and over again. We will tell it to them when they get here. I speak to all the athletes. I'll say, you know, I know that you know that I know that you know that you know that I know that if you're not 21, you can't drink. And somehow they all know this, and I still have a job. Year in and year out. I know that I will have a job. Some people see 1,400 18-year-olds and they go, oh my God. And I go, come on in, job security, good to see you. Because they're 18 years old. They are pretty much all accelerator, very little brake, very little steering wheel, and God bless them, they're all forces of nature. And I'm glad to see them. We're glad to see them leave after every year, but you're glad to see them come back because they are a lot of fun, and they will make the job worthwhile. So this is what happens. They come in every year, and they're the coolest thing ever because we were all the coolest thing ever, right, when we were 18. And by the way, in about a year, you'll start to realize that your kids realize that you're a lot smarter. All of a sudden, you got a lot smarter this first year of college. But they're going to come in and learn a few things that maybe they aren't quite as clever as they thought they were. And they're a lot noisier than they think they are after they've had a couple of adult beverages. And it's pretty obvious. And so the RAs, or public safety, will come in and say, you know, we can hear you. Oh, look, there's beer, there's liquor. Come on, give us the IDs. We have portable breath tests, so we know how much they've been drinking. And then what will happen is that a report will be given to a judicial officer. Now, most of your students, because they're freshmen and they live in the halls, will meet with a hall director, someone in their late 20s, early 30s. If they get into a lot of trouble, unfortunately, or they get into trouble off campus, they will come and see me. But for the most part, most of them are going to see their hall directors. And the first time sanction is pretty straight up. It's $80, it's the alcohol course, it's a warning. But more than that, it's a conversation. It's what I call the 10-point maintenance check. It's like, how you doing? What high school did you come from? What activities are you in? Are you getting along with your roommate? Do you work? Are you on an athletic team? And as you've probably heard a couple times, the biggest issue I have with discipline is immaturity and boredom. People think this is a highly structured environment. It's not. You have a class schedule and you have a meal plan. Other than that, I encourage you to get them into some kind of daily planner, something on their phone, anything that gets them in the discipline of figuring out that they have a lot more time than they realize. When I'm talking to these students and I go through the 10-point maintenance plan, I'll say, well, okay, so you're not working, you're not involved in any extracurriculars, you're not in a sport. Let's break down the week. There's 168 hours in a week. Let's take out the 16 hours of class. Let's take out the 32 hours of studying. Let's take out the travel. Let's take out, toiletries. Let's take out meals. Let's take out, okay, and you know what we end up with? Somewhere around 40 hours a week with each of these kids where I'm going, and you're doing what? Video games, maybe? So we will work with them in these cases to do some kind of follow-up and say, you really need to pay attention because idle hands actually are the devil's workshop. It's one of those things that I've kind of learned. Second time violation is we double the fine. It's a formal reprimand, which is a step before conduct probation, and we have parent contact. They don't like parent contact. For the same reasons I didn't like parent contact. They go, geez, Sex, why are you going to call my parents a sex? Why are you gonna, I'm an adult, dude. It's like, well, dude, if you were like me, I wasn't afraid of me when I was your age. I was afraid of my father sticking his foot up my butt, breaking it off, taking the car away, canceling the insurance, and threatening to kill me before turning me over to my mother. I don't know how it was in your households. My dad was the show. He was loud, big, brash. He was the show, but my mom ran the show. So when my dad got done, he would turn me over to my mother, who says, Jim, I'm going to go shopping now, but I want you to know that while I'm shopping, I'm very disappointed in you. I'm leaving. And she could turn it off like that, and I shrunk to this size. And it's like, because it's the same thing. I don't know how you were. I assume you were a lot like me. You're getting away with stuff. You were cool. But you didn't want to disappoint your parents. So that's the point at which we will call you and we will partner with you and say, what do you think? Because the conversation that we're having with the student, that I'm having with students, especially if I'm meeting with them, I say, I got 2 kids in college. Fun is fun, but I'm writing a check here, and we can only afford to do it one time. And you need to do it right. Okay, so you have to have your priorities straight. If you don't, it's fine, you're a nice kid. This is not about bad kid or anything. It's about whether you're ready to take advantage of this investment that's supposed to set you up for the rest of your life. So those are the conversations that we have. If it's a third time you're looking at probation, they're looking at conduct probation, perhaps a hearing board, perhaps removal from the halls, but the conversation is still the same, and it still manifests itself largely in maturity. Are you ready for this? And quite honestly, I see boys much more than I see girls. Not to hack on my own gender, but they just are behind a little bit. And it takes them a little bit longer for the little prefrontal lobes to pop. And when they do, it's a great thing. I will mention briefly marijuana. It is changing as we speak. It doesn't really change how we deal with it here because our dollars are tied to federal financial aid and federal dollars are tied to federal law. So we treat it the same way we've always treated it. We take it a little more seriously. They'll be on probation the first time. You'll get a letter from us. If they're on probation for drugs or alcohol, you'll get a letter from us. But the conversation is the same. It's like, what are you doing this for? Where are your priorities? Why are you really here? And if you're not ready for it, that's okay. We want you back when you're ready for it because we want the same thing that you want. We want our kids and we want your kids to walk out of here loving this place, thinking these are the greatest 4 years of our life. This is the lifeblood of a university. Happy alumni, happy students. We want them successful. We want them happy. So that's always the goal. I'm going to talk briefly about how we do this off campus as well. We have a lovely neighborhood. Enforcement happens on campus. It happens off campus. There's a ZAP patrol that runs each fall. This is the St. Paul Police that do this. St. Paul Police have squad cars dedicated just to looking for underage drinkers and parties, and they go around. And what often happens those first couple of weeks is the freshmen disgorge from our halls. They walk down Selby, and they have this kind of flocking thing where they're looking for an open door. And if there's an open door, all of a sudden, I'll tell the sophomores who live there, you're going to have 30 freshmen who you don't know, and your spider sense better be tingling because the police are going to show up. And when the police show up, they will shut down the entrances. They will PBT, portable breath test, just enough students to give them underage tags so that they can hold the renters responsible, and they will give them a social host citation. Just to plant a seed for next year, if your students want to move off campus and they are boys, that could be frying pan to the fire because People think that my bread and butter are freshman boys. No, they're actually sophomore boys, because speaking from personal experience, when I was 19, I wasn't just kind of an idiot. I was confidently stupid. So, that was just me. Sophomore boys, they're my bread and butter. But the freshmen, if they get the underage tag, what I encourage you to do is to have a conversation with them. And this can be a conversation starter. It's easy to talk to your kids. It's hard to get them to talk to you. So this is another one of those practical subject matters where it's not about judgment. It's about, hey, I heard the assistant dean talking about this. If you get an underage tag, I want you to understand this. Talk to me about it. Tell me what's happening, because I want you to keep your record clean. Make sure that they don't just sign that thing and pay the fine and send it in because they're admitting to a misdemeanor. I don't know what that does to their public record. I've been chasing that answer for years, but I do know that by signing it, they have just admitted to a misdemeanor, and I have seen that shown up on the public record. If they choose to, they can go and meet with a hearing officer downtown, and for an extra $100, it'll cost them $280-some, they get what's called a continuance for dismissal. The continuance for dismissal basically says that if you go a year without getting into trouble and you pay the extra surcharge, your case is dismissed. I think it's worth it. They ever come up on the employment application, have you ever been convicted? They can confidently and accurately say, no, I was never convicted. My case was dismissed. For an extra $100, I think that's worth it. We want to protect our kids. And I can tell you from personal experience, I've done it twice, I'm going to do it again, it's an act of faith. You send them off, you hope you raised them right. They're good kids, but they're kids. They're 18, they're forces of nature, and I will always have a job. But know that we care about them, that we understand the faith that you're placing in us, and we fully intend to justify that. So with that, I will thank you, and I will introduce Dan Mavison from Public Safety. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity of visiting with you this morning. I get to officially welcome you to the St. Thomas community. I believe very strongly that the safety and security of our campus is everybody's responsibility. I feel strongly that if you learn about something that doesn't seem right, doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. So I invite you to contact me. Let us know so we can look into it. The knowledge is power, and we use the tag words all the time. You see something, you say something. That makes our community safe. I do have a very professional staff. We're very well trained, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 365 days a year. We will not close. My dispatch is open and available. Our phones don't go down, so we're available to your sons and daughters. I have two numbers up there on the board. They're the general number and the emergency number. I want to put those up there and invite you to have conversations with your sons and daughters in light of Jim's information earlier. The two numbers, I ask that you suggest your sons and daughters put them in your cell phones. We know the ability your sons and daughters have with cell phones and what they do. That 651-962-5100 is our general phone number. We service the community with over 27,000 service calls a year. There's basically 6,000 undergraduate students. If you do the math, they're going to call us. And it's better if they have that phone number in their cell phone other than trying to figure it out. It might be as simple as they're looking for an escort. We do like 4,500 escorts a year as well. I invite you to tell your sons and daughters to use the escort program. I'd also ask that they don't abuse us. It is not a taxi ride when they're running late to class and their hair's wet and it's cold outside. It is an escort. It's there for safety reasons. I consider it a priority call. We will take that call, and my staff will do it with a smile on their face, and they'll come back and they'll yell at me, and I'll smile at them and say, escorts are important. Please use them. The emergency number is also very important. If your sons and daughters are on our campus and they dial 911, it goes from their cell phone right to the Ramsey County Dispatch Center. Ramsey County then contacts us directly, so there's basically a gap in there. If it goes to us immediately, we're the experts on the campus. We know where everything is. We respond to the incident. We also respond another officer to meet the emergency response units and bring them in. So we're saving very valuable time. And time does save lives. It's occurred many, many times over my career on the campus. So if they have that number and it's programmed in their cell phone, we can get them immediately. So that's really important. I'm also responsible for the Campus Crime Act, and basically that tells you how the campus is doing in relation to everybody else. What are our programs? What kind of incidents occur on our campus? We are a microcosm of society. There's things that are going to happen. I will stand in front of you and tell all of you that we have a very safe campus. It's exceptionally safe. However, incidents will happen. So I invite you to go ahead and look at our webpage under Public Safety on the university's main page, and take a look at the Clery Act and the incidents and the programs that we have. There's also Stay Safe videos on there that you can look through that are great going into freshman year. Talks about laptop theft and cell phone thefts and how easy it is to deal with something when you set it down and walk away to the bathroom, come back, and it's gone. Just it enlightens them to a new environment. Okay, so it's important to do those things. We're also responsible for emergency notification and emergency disaster planning and preparation for the campus. In a true emergency for this campus, your sons and daughters will be asked if they want to be actually they're in the system to get our UST alerts, which is our main notification system. When they go into Murphy Online, they're asked if they want to be removed from that list. And I'll stand in front of you again and say I would not understand why somebody would want to be removed from that list, but it is their option. They get that immediately when they sign into Murphy Online. For parents, they often ask me, how do I get on this and how can I follow it as well? I invite you to follow our Twitter or Facebook. As we push out that message, it immediately populates Facebook and Twitter, so you could have it at the exact same time as your sons and daughters do. Our emergency response, we're coordinated with St. Paul Police or Minneapolis Police. We do a lot of training. We actually invite St. Paul on campus, and we do coordinated efforts and coordinated training on disaster and response and stuff. We meet with the police probably during the school year 3 times a week, so we're very tied into it. I think that ties me back into one other real quick thing. In a true emergency, the university's main page will turn into the UST Cares page. So if you go online, it's going to list the incidents and what's taken place and what information you need to have. So we put a lot of time and effort into trying to make sure our community is safe. Again, I invite you and your sons and daughters to work with us as one team for it. I got to touch back before I go on to transportation and talk a little bit about, Sister Sharon, that St. Thomas plus neighbors plus alcohol, see that big frowny face underneath that? That's me on Monday morning. Just got to say it. Alcohol in the neighborhood is a major issue. We have a beautiful neighborhood. Our neighbors are well organized. They have voice. They are heard. All the way up to the mayor's office. We got city council member in our neighborhood. It goes to the chief of police. It goes to the president of the institution. It goes to me. The neighbors do not like the activities that are taking place on any given weekend in the neighborhood, and they have a right to. I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody wants your lawn ornaments picked up at 3 o'clock in the morning, taken down 3 houses, reset up in somebody else's yard because they look better there. You know, our students, they urinate on their property, their bushes, they vomit, they throw their beer cans. There's party buses that get off in the neighborhoods, and you can imagine when you let out 50 intoxicated young men and ladies at 2:30 in the morning, and you got your sons and daughters sleeping for school in the morning. That's a big problem. It's a lot of attention gets set to it, like Jim says. The wake-up call is we do enforce, and St. Paul Police will give us those names the following Monday of any incidents that take place, and your sons and daughters will be held responsible on and off campus for it. So the other thing is I do have to tell you that if your sons and daughters are not able to care for themselves in the middle of the night, we are up. We're doing it, but we're going to call you. And I invite you to know that, because if you're from outstate or out of state and you get that phone call at 3 o'clock, I'm inviting you to take a couple minutes to figure out who's going to be close to you in this neighborhood. Maybe it's a cousin or an aunt or uncle or brother. Or if you have nobody else in the neighborhood, maybe you can get to know your roommates, parents and stuff like that, because we will call you first. And you're the one that's going to tell us who's going to come and pick up your son and daughter, because we can't care for them. They need to go home for the night. I'm also responsible for transportation. So a quick reminder, your freshmen sons and daughters are not eligible if they're resident students for a contract, or I'm sorry, for a resident permit. There is a safety net. There is what we call the freshman contract. If you, for some reason, must have a car on campus, it's a lottery system. We offer so many of them a year, but I do not recommend it. It's very expensive. It's $1,086. And I'll stand in front of you again today and say, we do this every year. Your freshman sons and daughters will find a way to make it without having a car on campus. We have the escorts that I've talked to you before. We have nice ride bikes that are all over the place. That's a tremendous program. I can't believe how that's taken off. We have the USD Shuttle that runs every 20 minutes during the school day from the St. Paul campus to the Minneapolis campus. Right across the street from the Minneapolis campus is Target. And it's a super mega Target, so there's everything they need there. There's also the other service areas in Minneapolis that are right in that location. You can't miss it. The shuttle's free. Bicycles, if your sons and daughters bring a bike on campus, I'm pleading with you, please do not bring an expensive bike. The secret is a very, very inexpensive bike and a very expensive lock. With 500 plus bikes on campus every day, a national trend, you put that many bikes in an area, there's professional thieves that steal bikes. And they take them to scrap them. They get money off of it. So I do not really, I feel horrible on Mondays when I read a report and it says a student lost a bike and it was a $1,500, $1,800 bicycle or something. I'm going, please don't do that. I do endorse walking. That's a tremendous asset to all students here. The Metro bus passes we have taxi vouchers. And then in a case of a true emergency, my staff will distribute taxi vouchers for something like if your sons or daughters need to get to a pharmacy that's somewhere else or some kind of emergency or something, and they get a hold of us, I'll generally authorize a taxi voucher and stuff. I haven't yet. I've never charged anybody back on those yet, but if case comes to it where somebody's using it quite frequently, then I might call you and say, hey, we should talk about this. But other than that, all of us will be available. I'm going to wrap it up now. I know you're all tired of hearing us, so thanks for your time today.
Well, you are all available, so